Welcome to another episode of the Leadership Connection, where industry expert Doug Plucknett interviews global leaders from the maintenance and reliability industry. Each week, new leaders will join us with insights and tips to help you grow in your career, and they'll share a good story or two while they're at it as well. The Leadership Connection is produced by the industry's leading networking and learning community, Mobius Connect. Doug, over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it might be that you're tuning into this podcast. Today I have with me Shami, who is a distinguished reliability leader. And good morning. How are you doing today?
Very good morning, Doug and Kim. Thank you so much for having me. And it's been a lovely day. I'm going good. I'm really good. Yeah. Hope you guys the same.
And where are you coming from today?
I'm from the sunny, lovely island of Sri Lanka, which is called the Pearl of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
And I'm working from Sri Lanka. And I actually, although I'm based in Sri Lanka, I do a lot of cross-border collaborations on the subject. And right now, currently, I'm in conversation with many fellow professionals around the world. We are running this WhatsApp group for thermography. And we do a lot of discussions. Although I'm from an island, it's safe to say that we collaborate so much with each other, irrespective of the borders.
Very good. So, Shami, if you could tell our listeners a bit about your career, your background, where you went to school, places you've worked, some project you've worked on, give us an introduction of who my friend is.
All right. Let me start by saying that I was born on 1987, January, and I did my schooling in two colleges and schools in Colombo, which is the capital in Sri Lanka. And after my studies, and I was admitted to the University of Moratuwa, where I started my higher studies. This was in 2011, and that was in 2006. I started my college education, and I was specialized in the electrical engineering sector, and the course was 4 years from there. And after I graduated as a Bachelor of Honors in Electrical Engineering, I took on the course, the Masters of Electrical Engineering, which I was very interested in. And I was exposed to so many core subjects like transmission, distribution, and generation of electricity. And I also applied for my charter engineering qualification subsequently with the Institution of Engineers in Sri Lanka, which I came out pretty qualified in 2015. And I also got my master's on the same year around. And when I was graduated as a bachelor, my first employer was the Ceylon Electricity Board, which is the monopolistic utility for generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity in Sri Lanka. So that's my first employer. And I'm actually employed with the Ceylon Electricity Board to date, and my career there is now I'm spending my 10th year with them. And I got started in the very first coal power station in Sri Lanka as the coal handling engineer for electrical and instrumentation. And I was responsible for maintaining the coal moving machinery and the handling systems and the instrumentation and high voltage stuff and medium voltage, and also the port equipment where we used to unload and handle the incoming coal shipments, and there were some cranes, unloading cranes, and some conveyors. We are talking about 1,500 tons per hour kind of handling capacity. And so I almost spent around 7 years in the plant as the coal handling engineer. And afterwards, I applied for a transfer at the commercial side, where right now I am handling some commercial matters, kind of letter of credits and overseas transactions for spare parts, the supply chain based section in my employer. So I'm responsible for importation of spare parts and contract management and handling the letter of credits, guarantees, and contracts. So in parallel, I am very much actually if I talk about my reliability and especially the thermography exposure I had, this was also in when I was working in the coal power plant, which I got my first hands-on experience in 2010, which I was really inspired from. And right from there, and I have been playing with these images, and I have seen many models of them, and I have been doing some hands-on experience. And I actually got myself certified and trained from the good people at Snell Group in the USA, where I got my level 1 certification and training, and my level 2 and the level 3 is from the Infraspection. And big shout out to my man Jim Sefrin and James Sefrin and Jim Fritz. They are really good people and best in the business. I'm really honored to get the trained and certified and my man Roy Huff and Kerry Weaver, and that's about it. And they really opened me up when it comes to the thermography, and they really helped me shape my world of view about the reliability and the thermography and how other condition-based monitoring technologies play a vital role, not only thermography, how the other technologies are really complementary to each other when it comes to condition monitoring. So as of now, I'm really into various discussions with these professionals. Whenever I see something in the LinkedIn, I follow a lot of professional reliability leaders online, and I have almost quit my Facebook surfing time, and I'm now a fully LinkedIn junkie, and I follow a lot of professionals like you, and that's exactly how I came across your podcast, which is really nice. Thank you so much for having me. That's about it. That's about myself. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, and I really enjoy speaking with people that have been there and done that, the hands-on stuff, and that's really what opens people's eyes is when you get out there and you're able to show people the difference you can make with those tools, the on-condition tools, vibration analysis, thermography, ultrasound. And I can also tell you, in my long career, at the very beginning when I was an apprentice, my first rotation was to a coal power plant. So I know a bit about that coal handling equipment, and I was a hands-on guy coming out and, taking that very long shower at the end of the day to get cleaned up and get that dust off.
Oh, yeah.
Right. All the PPE required, the face so that you're not breathing all that stuff in and working in a hot environment. It becomes a real challenge. And it's one of those things where you're very tempted to kind of rush repair things because of the environment that you're working in. And you have to learn to say, okay, we need to slow down. We need to do this right. We have multiple boilers here. So it's not like, we don't have other options in terms of supplying power. So let's make sure we do this right. And as a young apprentice, early 20 years old, of course, you're doing all the bull work too. You had the older journeyman there, and they're saying, okay, you get that slug wrench out and get on that thing and get that apart for us. And, and then when you get it apart, take it down to the shop and get it onto the wire weir and clean that thing up, right? Yeah, and this was, back well before a lot of these technologies existed. So I could tell you, I wish we had those back then. That would have been made life a lot easier, understanding what was going on sometimes, right? Do we have a power problem?
Absolutely.
Is it a bearing problem, right? What's going on?
Yeah.
So
I hear you. I mean, my generation and many generations before me, they were really lucky. And probably the after generations, they are the luckiest bunch of all. as far as our lifetimes are concerned. And you guys, I actually went through your profile, which is nothing short of legendary, I would say. And Lou, you have quite a lot of experience under your belt. So I understand when you say that you guys had a really, really hands-on experience, and I wish I can have some more of that. And I really look forward to that, because that was really life-changing to me. Because once you get on that overhaul, and the hat, and the COVID also have played a major role. I mean, if I were to work at a plant with the PPEs, and now we have the COVID, and we have additional PPE stresses on us, and life would very much be hard, right? And I also I have a funny story to tell you about this PP. Now it's all coming back to me. One day my colleague was able to follow me based on my footsteps, because I always try to go to the courtyard, and I also get all the time I get dirty, my overalls and especially my footwear. We used to walk on the courtyard. We get these coal chunks inside our footwear, right? So when I got onto the administrative floor, when I walk around, people can follow my sludge pieces and find them. They can find me wherever I am, right? So they would know when the city sludge pieces on the floor of the engineering office, so they know it's me. So they know I got to be somewhere around here. Right, so that's really funny, and that's really coming back to me, and I know exactly what you mean about that, Doc. Yeah,
Yeah.
Can relate.
Well, I could tell you, we had in our cafeteria there was 3 or 4 separate tables that were labeled for coal handlers, right? Because you get the chairs dirty. As much as you wash up and clean up to eat lunch, you still sit down. Your pants are dirty, your shirt's dirty, right? So you get the chair dirty. And they wanted to make sure that we kept that to a small part of the large cafeteria. So, and the other issue, I can remember coming home, and my wife would say, "Okay, we need to work on your ears. You get stuff in there too."
Oh yeah.
So
and the noses, nostrils too, pretty much.
Oh, yeah. As much as you wear the PPE, you still get some corners of your eyes. That's
right.
Very difficult. So looking at your career, and you've already mentioned a couple names, who would you say were your mentors at this point? And you're still a young guy. I mean, you got a ways to go yet. So, but obviously starting out, it does help to speak with and learn from others. So who are some of those people that you've worked with and learned from?
Yeah, when it comes to condition monitoring scenario, I've been following a lot of legends in the field. In the LinkedIn arena, I used to react a lot with these guys from Australia. Right now, it's his name is Eric Thorup. He's also a level 3 thermographer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's really good. I mean, he's really good. He's really into the thermography, and his attention to detail just inspires me. And when it comes to thermography, the attention to detail is the key, right? Because you have a lot of images, and when you go through a lot of surveying, you will end up with around 1,000+ images on your imager, right? So each image signifies something really, truly unique. And there are tiny amounts of detail that you can miss very easily and could be overlooked. But Eric always teaches me how not to miss that tiny detail on the frame, right? So you have this major loose connection on the middle of the frame, but on the same panel you have this teeny control connection running even maybe hotter, but it's a very tiny dot. But he has taught me how not to overlook those anomalies. And he always talks about these principles underlying, like I'm talking about these reflective temperatures, which is very frequently overlooked by thermographers, and how to estimating the emissivity and the significance of the parameters. And importance of recording the actual site particulars, right? And
Right.
Eric is number one on my list, and other people like Kerry, my man. He's really cool, and he recently he has been posting around cool stuff, and he was one of my instructors in the level 1 course at Snell, and he's also really he's a really good inspiration, by the way, and he's also level 1 ultrasound certified, and he inspired me to get the now that I have reached the topmost tier at the thermography. He has inspired me to go for the ultrasound arena. So I'm really looking forward to that course with good people at UE Systems or SDT or someone else.
Yeah.
And I hope that's really expanding my horizon, right? So these people and Kerry and especially Jim Fritz, he's really active in the LinkedIn arena, and he's the owner and the founder of the Snell group, and he's actively commenting and always complimenting and providing feedback on the images of his students, and who is also not his students, and he just met these people on LinkedIn, but still his feedbacks on the images, it's very frequently seen, and that inspires me a lot. So I more and more I get onto LinkedIn, I see these reactions and comments and what the fellow thermographers have to say, different perspectives and knowledge. It's really inspiring. Those are some of the people, and also with my employer in Sri Lanka, my chief engineer, Mr. his name is Sepala Karnasena. He's also a veteran in this field, and he always inspires me to do something different. And absolutely, this thermography scenario is completely different of what I do in my office space. So in the office, I'm talking to bankers, handling documentation, supply chain analytics, and shipping companies and cargo clearances, etc. So when I'm not in the office, he inspires me to do these things as which will help my mind to get a whole new perspective out there, right? So
Sure.
I'm not confined. Yeah.
MRO side of the business is a very important side of the business when it comes to reliability, right? Having the correct spares in place is important. Even more important than that is getting reliable suppliers, right? Reliable devices and components and instruments, but suppliers that can get them to you, especially in an island country. Sometimes that's a challenge, right? I remember doing some work with mining companies over in Indonesia, and they're talking about, their minimum wait time was like 30 days, right? It took that long to get parts because they had to come into mainland first and then be shipped over. So MRO is a huge part of the business. I mean, we have people in the United States where there's suppliers all over the place that still struggle, right? Because they haven't taken the time to organize their MRO, make it align with their equipment hierarchy, right? And take the time to work with engineering to say, look, when we buy motors, we want at least no more than 3 brands, right? When we buy pumps, the same thing, so that we don't have this multitude of different brands out there that we now have to try to carry or obtain parts for. So it's I'm sure a big change for you to go from working in the coal handling side of the business to going to MRO. What was that like initially?
Well, yeah, I was actually it was kind of a moment of truth for me, because when I was the call handling engineer, I used to blame these guys for not delivering the parts on time and always giving excuses. So, well, what do you know? Next thing you know, it hits you back with the absolute same job. Now it's your turn to have the bite the dust, right? So once I sit down there and I try to comprehend how do I, because a lot of uncertainties you have to deal with these supply chains, right? You have to deal with the suppliers and you don't know what's going on their end, right? So we rely on their orders and their commitment, but especially on times like this, and where the shipping costs are skyrocketing and the supply chains are very unreliable, and the countries and our major suppliers like China was struggling for a long time from the COVID, and now the India is suffering, right? So these suppliers, they struggle a lot. So right now we are facing a lot of challenges in this arena alone, and the lead times and the deliveries are really uncertain, right? So what we have done is actually we have diversified our supply chain when it comes to our supply chain, the suppliers and the supply points. Now we have diversified away from the Indian and the Chinese market to the Europe and some of the countries like UK and Sweden and Netherlands, etc., and also to the US. And we have recently found a really good, reliable, and agile supply chain and supply points in US. People like Trillium Flow and Crane Well Services, to mention a few. And they're really good and they're really reliable and really good US brands, right? So they are really flexible and really, I would say, buyer friendly, and we get really good deals from them. And when it comes to payment terms, and we are really flexible and considerate of their buyers. So that's really good thing. And for me, it was a really huge change when coming out of the maintenance rooms and into the office to deal with the compliance and the international banking practices and documentation and shipping. It was really life changing for me. So it was a very good challenge for me. I think I'm doing a really good job, and we have used the number one target we have it today is we're becoming very technological, right? We need to make use of the technology, and the number one priority right now, given the amount of volume we handle, the shipments I'm talking about, around 800 shipments per year from destinations across the globe. And I'm talking about full container loads, and we have major overhauls each year in the coal power plant I was working before, and I am now responsible for supplying all the spare parts for that particular power plant I was working. And we handle a lot of supply and spare parts on reliability basis for the plant. So like you said, being an island nation, it's really, really challenging, because especially when it comes to times like this and the unexpected lockdowns and frequent clearance uncertainties and the customs and the increasing compliance requirements and demands around the world. Even for one of our suppliers was struggling with their export clearances, because the customs and compliance is really, it used to be really friendly. Now around the world in general, it becomes really, really stringent, right? So everybody's struggling. Everybody's struggling, that's for sure. But it's all good, because the way I see it, the stringent measures will change our mindset and will make us ticking, and will keep our brain ticking, right? So we would always try to find something better and process improvements, which is a really good point when it comes to long run and the sustainability of these systems. Once the more we think, the more we brainstorm with each other within our teams, we would find really agile answers that would withstand any conditions worldwide, right? So that I see a really good outcome from coming with all of this, right? Even the COVID have taught us very good lessons, and I think it's a really.
If you look at your life 3 to 5 years from now, what you just went through in the last year or two is going to be life changing, right? And very rewarding, right? What you've learned from this exercise will protect your company years down the road, right? Because you'll be prepared for an event like this again. Whereas before we were all like, oh no, what do we do? Right? Now all of a sudden you say, all right, here's the things we need to make sure we have in place. So if something like this happens again, we're prepared. right? It makes a huge difference. So I'm going to kind of switch things up here, and because we're getting pretty close on our time, I want to ask a question about, now you've mentioned some people. What are some books or courses that you've taken that have made a difference in your career that you'd like to maybe introduce our listeners to?
Oh yeah, I mean, number one, if you talk about the books about this subject, the number one recommendation I have is the book by the Dr. Rob Manning, who is also a legend in this field, right? So he has written this book and published. The name of the book is the Growing Up with Infrared Thermography,
Okay.
and he has very nicely put it out there in his 40 years plus exposure and the experience on the various subsectors in this thermography. He used to be a instructor, he used to be a course coordinator, and he used to be a teacher and a salesperson for thermography cameras. And I'm talking about 60s and 70s, right? And he has his PhD in this technology, and he has really cool stories to share with the fellow thermographers. So I have been talking about this book in my LinkedIn as well, because it was really inspiring for me to read it. And he has given quite a lot of stories and actual life experiences he has to go through as a salesperson, as an instructor, and as a level 3 thermography expert. So my number one pick and the number one recommendation would be that. And in addition to that, the ASNT, the American Society of Non-Destructive Testing, has put out some really good publications, especially the level 3 study guides and the ASNT TC1A have really good information and a must read for all thermographers, irrespective of the area we work on, right? So if you want to get to the bottom of this, those are the 3 top reading materials I would very much recommend. Yeah.
All right. So closing out, last question here. At this point in your career, what would you say is your greatest success, if you could share that with your listeners?
My greatest success, I think it's too early to talk about success for me, but as if we talk about now at this point, my greatest success would be to expose myself to these legendary influencers and mentors in the field of thermography and get their honest feedback on my work, right?
Yeah.
That was the real success I would consider that I would have on myself. So that is success to me when somebody points out a mistake. When Eric says, look here, you have done this thing and this comment you have made is incorrect, which is why this and this and this. And that is success for me. I mean, I'm successful so that other people is able to point out my mistakes, which would make me a better professional on this arena, because I'm still really young. I have 10 plus experience under my belt right now, and I have really long way to go and much things to learn. And if the success for me right now is that I have such a bunch of great people who inspires me, who pushes me, and who criticizes for me with the positive mindset they have, that's success for me as seen of now.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's a great outlook. I could tell you that the people that you're communicating are top notch. And that's one of the great things about LinkedIn is there are some great people on there that are very open and very willing to share their experiences. I could tell you, being from the mechanical side of the business, when I have questions on electrical, I could tell you there's a few people on there that I go right to. You know, Howard Penrose being one. Howard shares very freely, especially when it comes to motors and high voltage and stuff like that. So when I have questions, I have those same people that I go to. And that's the best part about it is the people like that, they understand it's a huge world. You know, sharing and helping others it comes back tenfold to you, right? It really does.
Absolutely.
Because very soon down the road, people will start asking, Shami, those same questions, right? And I'm sure it's probably already started that you do have people that say, hey, have you seen this before? Here's a picture that I've got for you. What's going on here, right? That's
Absolutely.
it makes a huge difference. Well, I have to tell you, it's been a fantastic talking to you. I'm going through my mind saying, I believe I've been to Sri Lanka. I've been a lot of places in the world. Because I know I did a tour. It seemed like one year it was Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and I'm thinking that Sri Lanka was in there, but in my mind I can't go. Who did I go there for? Right.
All right. Well, we'll make it a plan to meet someday in Sri Lanka. You should really come again, Kim. You guys should really come.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great day. It's been fantastic talking to you. This is Doug Plucknett with the Leadership Connection. Have a great day, my friends. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Leadership Connection. We will see you back for another episode next week. In between, we hope to see you in the Mobius Connect community where you can meet Doug and share with other industry professionals at mobiusconnect.com. We'll see you there.